And I thought that was a great conquest, a great thing. And there was a florist kiosk on the footpath. È tutto tuo quello che te porti davanti, which means, is it all yours what you're carrying in front of you? So my story, what I try to do is a personal story. I try to squeeze my whole life in a cup. And it was very beautiful. Thank you, Jappe, and thank you, Sue, because he reminded me of two strong aspects in my life and two marvelous people in my life. My son is 5 years of age. And what I'm trying to do as a mother is talk to him about what happens into women's bodies, so that it's not a surprise, it's not something bad or strange for him. He knows my menstrual cup, he wants to play with it, which I forbid. And Sue, you reminded me of what my grandmother used to do to me, tell stories to teach me things about life. What happened, and this is the beginning of my story, is that my grandmother told my mother, her daughter, nothing about menstruation. So the first time my mother had her period, she thought, like most women, most girls in the 50s, she was going to die. And that was the reason why she explained to me almost everything. So I should have known everything when I had my first menstruation, but for a brief moment, I thought as well I was going to die. And then I realized what was happening. And I thought I was so proud because I had finally grown up. And my first thought was, now I'm going to have boobs and I can wear a bra. And I thought that was a great conquest, a great thing. And in the summer, actually, of 1982, my grandmother told secretly, she whispered only to the closest relatives, Angela è diventata signorina, which means that I had turned into a small little lady. And that was the way in the 70s they used to call it, the menstruation, become a little lady. And I hated that expression. And down south in Italy, there is another way of saying, which is, è arrivato il marchese. The Marquis has come. And for years and years and years, until today, actually, until yesterday, I wondered why the Marquis would come. What does it have to do with blood? And thanks to the festival, I Googled it. And I found out that it is because marquises, noblemen, used to wear those bright red suits in order to stand out from the peasants, from common people. And that is the reason why we say that. And I always thought it was something very torpid, whereas it was quite a simple reason. And what I want to tell you is my first time I had menstruation in my life. I can remember it perfectly. I had to go to tennis classes, and I was very lazy as a kid. I'm very lazy as a grown-up as well, but I was really, really lazy, and I found every excuse not to go to tennis classes. And that afternoon, early afternoon, my father came to collect me and bring me to tennis class. And I said, no, Dad, I can't. I've got this terrible, terrible stomachache. I can't go. And that very time, he believed me. So I can remember I stayed in the couch, all crawling. And at a certain moment, I went to the bathroom, to the toilet, and I looked down. And for a brief moment, as I said, I thought, oh my God, I injured myself. And then I realized all the things my mother explained to me. And I ran to my father and told him what happened. And we didn't know what to do and how to deal with it. And so I spoke to my mother on the phone at work, and she gave me all the proper instructions. What happened actually was that nature was kind of mean, because I was that kind of girls who would have cramps every month and an overflowing, abundant flow. So once in my classroom at school, we had to swap chairs. I can't remember why actually, but I can remember that I stood up and looked down and saw that my chair was dirty. And so I immediately sat down and tried with my bottom to clean it. And I took off my jumper and put it around the waist. And then I stood up while the teacher was yelling, "Come on, hurry up, hurry up." And so I swapped chairs and I prayed that nothing happened. And I heard a classmate of mine, a boy, saying, "The chair is dirty, that's gross." And I can remember feeling I wanted to sink into the ground and disappear. And that was why I think menstruation for me for many years was something to conceal, something to be ashamed of. Speaking of which, what happened with menstruation, as you might imagine, boobs came. Those so long wished for boobs. And I can remember this time while I was walking along the river Tevere in Rome, and there was a florist kiosk on the footpath. And I passed the florist kiosk, and you may know that Roman people, Roman men, are very renowned, worldly renowned, to be very straightforward, very direct. And so I could distinctly hear this man yelling at me, "È tutto tuo quello che te porti davanti," which means, is it all yours what you're carrying in front of you? And that was the second time I wanted to sink in the pavement. But what I just did, it was just closing my arms and walking like that until I decided I wanted to become an actress, which was years and years later. But that same road, that same path along the river where the kiosk is tied very closely to my magic helper, because in stories, in fairy tales, there's always a magic helper. So while I was thinking about this story, I immediately saw this magic helper of mine, which is my best friend, Sarah. And the thing is that what cemented our friendship was that bit of the road along the river, because we would go to tennis classes together, and we go back home together with the same bus, number 32 in Rome. And then we would get off past the damn florist shop, and then we would get off at a certain bus stop where she would stay, and I would have to cross the road and take my bus home. The thing is that I've always been, as a teenager, quite a chicken. So I was scared to death about stairs and by crossing roads. So Sarah would take me by the hand, really tight, and she would carry me at the opposite way of the street, and we would cross the road running and laughing and holding hands, and she would take me safely to my bus stop. And as teenagers do, we will start this crazy conversation, shouting at each other because she would have come back to her bus stop. So from one bus stop to another of a big crowded street in Rome, you could imagine us yelling and shouting and speaking. And whenever she couldn't hear me or I couldn't hear her, she would run again and say what we had to say and then run back to her bus stop. She's a magic helper, I said. And the thing is that she's the one who introduced me not only to crossing the roads, but to menstrual cups. And it happened because I was complaining about tampons. And actually, she's the one who introduced me to tampons too. So we go back in the 80s, before the menstrual cup. We go back to tampons. In the 80s, 1985, I was 14, and I can remember I called her And I said, Sarah, I can't stand it anymore. It's terrible, because I want to go to the seaside, and for the third year in a row, I would be wearing those terrible shorts, and I will sweat in the heat, and I can't swim for a week while boys can't. That's so unfair. And she stopped me and said, use tampons. And I said, are you crazy? Tampons? I can't, I'm a virgin. And she said, you can use tampons, I use tampons. And I said, how could you do that? How could you find the hole? I don't know where it is. And so she was a feminist ante litteram. She said, take a mirror, sit on the bidet, take a mirror and look. And that's what I did. Quite trembling, I took the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I looked down and discovered my way for the tampons. As far as the cup is concerned, it was almost the same pattern. What happened years later, I was, I think, unfortunately, almost 35 or 36. No, almost 40, I think, yeah. And I called her, and I was complaining about tampons this time, because I had to change to cotton sanitary pads because tampons were a nuisance and so on and so on. She said, use the menstrual cup. And I said, a menstrual what? A menstrual cup. It's ecological, it's clean, it's money saving. You've got to use it. And she booked, she actually bought a menstrual cup for me. And the funny thing is that this menstrual cup, Priyanka, I thought a lot about you, is strawberry red. So I had this strawberry red cup in my hand, and the first time I thought my body would swallow the menstrual cup and never release it. So I could picture me going to the ER saying, I'm sorry, but I've got a big problem. Then days came by, and I got so used to the menstrual cup that I decided in my storytelling life, and in my human life, I had to tell about this. And I can remember once during a storytelling session, a storytelling workshop, it was just girls. I don't know how I did that. I stopped the lesson at the central moment, and out of the blue, to the teenagers, I said, girls, you have to know this, don't misunderstand me. But if I had known the menstrual cup when I was your age, my social life would have been totally different. And that is why I'm so happy to be here today to tell this story. Last thing I want to say is that the feeling with menstrual cup is the same feeling I have with my friendship with Sarah. It's freedom. And it is a strange sensation, because it's both very ancient and very new, very contemporary as a sensation. At times I feel as if I can picture me in the red tent, squatting, sitting down, squatting, and sort of giving blood to Mother Earth again. And I know it is not like that because it's irrational, but the feeling is really that one. So if any of you haven't still tried, try it. It's really something. Thank you, Priyanka.